indicative in the manner that it spells out the various scenarios or interventions or programs that we are dealing with as a country, and where ideally we want to be in the matters region or internationally. And again, progressive in the sense that because of where we are and where we aspire to be, because we are a country of ideals. That's what the Constitution is all about. That it is a living document. It is very much alive. That as a country we shall. So we continue to become. Therefore, the state of the nation ought to be very progressive in the sense that the president comes out and tells Kenyans, this is where we are and this is where we are heading and this is where you ought to be, ideally speaking. However, in retrospect, the various statements that the president has made to the nation have not been very accurately indicative nor progressive. Because every time he has made a speech, whether it was before the revolution of the Gen Z started or during the abduction, any time the president has spoken, it has just ignited social angst. People have gotten angry and they're like, you really don't get what you're saying. And you remember that is a message people are telling the president, that you need to listen, you need to hear to what we Kenyans are saying. So the discrepancy between what the state of the nation ought to be and what it has been is very alarming. And on the flip side, what the president has failed on, among everything else we can accuse him of, is failing to honor the call for good governance. That's all we need as a country, to wipe out corruption. Because if we let matters devolution take course as they should, function would follow resources. But what do we continue to experience, especially around that matter of issue of devolution? We've had a long standoff between the MPs and the Senate in regard to disbursement of funds to the counties. We've had a huge standoff between the government and the governors and the national government in terms of implementation of programs. You hear of agriculture, you hear of education. We've had a long standoff between the National Assembly and the county, and the Governor, Council of Governors, matters NGCDF. And I'll give you an example of a county like Pikeni County, but let's work with Kiambu, which has 12 sub-counties. If every MP gets 100 million as NGCDF, that's 1.2 billion. Money that if you went to the county would be well utilized. We must look into how we utilize our resources. Because all the NGCDF does is offer bursaries, and then they'll do a few uplifting of the police stations or police posts. Nothing really much, because when it comes to roads, then they have to go back to the national government for more funds. When we say we need to collapse our disbursement of bursaries so that we can have a uniformed education system which will lead us to a free education, the parties they are in, from the MPs and other associated beneficiaries of the corruption, do not want to see that happen. So if only the president can steer us to honoring the rule of law and honoring the pledge we made in the plan, the manifesto, constitutionalism, because that's all we need. If we do follow our constitution, we are going to eradicate corruption.
Oh, yes. Corruption
is merely loopholes that are sustained systematically to ensure pilferage of resources. And once you try to change that, the beneficiaries, they make a counter move, and that's why you hear of talks of cartel. We had a long conversation about coffee when the former deputy president was trying to bring reforms. We've had a lot of conversation around cartels in the Nairobi city. Yet, the devolution was to steer us towards, number one, raising of sufficient on-source revenue by the counties. But today you hear of Council of Governors threatening to down their tools because they're going to be dysfunctional if they do not receive the disbursement.